Okay, so I'd like to welcome everybody on board this presentation. This is part of my accomplishment of the data interpretation course. I decided to do a DBA, which is a doctorate in business administration from Hult International Business School. It's a great place. I like it so far. And my study is about determinants of organizational effectiveness in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. So please allow me to take you through the presentation. So Hult Business School. Hult Business School is a great place, as I said. It's very diverse, it's very global, it's very contemporary, but it's also very academic. It's very well nested into the academic world. The DBA program is made for executives like myself. So I started the course about a year and a half ago, and I plan to finish within the next year or so. It's, part of sharing experiences is taking an academic break from business. It's, we as business leaders, we normally get drifted as we work along, deadlines and profits and losses and, everything that we face on a daily basis. And every now and then it's good to recalibrate your business compass. I think why I'm doing that is primarily because of that, and other reasons that I'll explain. Contrasting practice and academia every now and then is also very good. Not necessarily in the form of a formal study, but everyone can do a course or get acquainted with academic principles of doing business. I think in this part of the world we all lack that. So I kind of encourage everyone here to take a break from business and recalibrate their compass. What actually made me look into the human factor in my DBA is the question that I ask myself every time: are we really running at our highest potential? Are we really using all the tools that we have at hand to deliver and create value for the customers? In my view, and it's only my view, it's not proven yet, in this part of the world specifically, we're not optimizing people. We are very good at optimizing things, but we're not very good at optimizing people. Optimizing people has always made it very, very clear that it's, with contemporary business realities, is actually the key to sustainable success. So in principle, that's my motivation to start the DBA program. I think I've answered that. How does contemporary business behave? It's becoming much more competitive, and I think to maintain success, we'll have to optimize people. We have every tool and mathematical modeling in optimizing assets, cash, funds, finances, goods, all the peripherals of business. But what we are always neglecting, I wouldn't say neglecting, but maybe not giving it enough attention, is how to optimize people's performances. So why organizational effectiveness is important? It's good because it makes you more efficient. And efficiency in that sense is, how do you get what you are planning to get with the minimum requirements or with what you have? I mean, in the end of the day, the true judgment of achieving is not what you have achieved, but what you have achieved with what you had. So in any sense, organizational effectiveness makes the organization more efficient. Of course, achieving goals, creating competitive advantage, sustainable competitive advantage, resource optimization, and by resource here, my focus is on the human capital. Employee engagement and satisfaction, adaptability and resilience. Adaptability and resilience have proven, every business has gone through a crash with COVID, because we then discovered how unadaptable or inadaptable we were in conducting business. With one small disruption, I can't call it small, but one disruption, and many businesses failed around the world. Stakeholder satisfaction. Until recently, most of the focus was the satisfaction of shareholders. But now to make it sustainable, it also should involve the stakeholders, and employees and managers and people around you and customers and everything, whatever a stakeholder could apply to. Innovation and creativity, of course, with this kind of with our business realities. If you're not creative, if you're not putting a new product in the market, you're simply outdated. Nokia, for example. This is the conceptual framework. I don't want to bore you with a lot of details, but basically what I'm assuming here is that I have 4 independent variables here, and I have 2 mediators. These mediators actually, they tell you how these independent variables affect organizational effectiveness. Organizational effectiveness is the concept that I want to focus and study on, especially within our context. The independent variables are role clarity. That's how clear are you about your expectations within the organization. Career development, what is waiting for you tomorrow? Are you getting a promotion? Are you being trained to get another job outside? Is your career the center of attention by anyone in the organization? Leadership style, we have many leadership styles. What kind of leadership style creates or causes organizational effectiveness to do better? Organizational culture, what kind of culture are you promoting inside the organization? These 2 in this model these 4 are independent variables. Psychological safety and employee engagement are actually two other variables that explain how these independent variables affect and change organizational effectiveness. Psychological safety is simply how conducive the corporate culture is, how supportive it is. Do you allow anyone to say anything? Are people afraid to make quote unquote stupid comments? Is there such a thing as a stupid question in your organization? Things like that. Employee engagement is, I think, self-explanatory, although it's as a construct very, very complicated to explain. But engaged employees are really giving their 110% to the organization. And finally, organizational effectiveness, which is what we've discussed earlier. The hypotheses, I'm not going to go through the hypotheses, but we have 12 of them here. You can always refer to them because I'm also keeping an eye on time. Methodology, initially I was targeting the telecom sector, but then I discovered soon that I will not have enough responses on the questionnaires. So I have diversified that from only the telecom sector to business sector businesses in the KRI. So basically, I'm selecting random respondents to the questionnaire from these business sectors. So far, I have 251 valid data points. That's not enough, of course. I have to augment that. I have to substantiate that. I have to get more ratings, but it's very challenging, and we'll go through that later on. The method was through a link, an online link that I would send to people who would like to respond, and then all the data will be sent to a server called Qualtrics that we use to analyze data. According to the 251 data, I can say that here, and again, I don't want to bore you with p-value and coefficients and everything else, but everything on the left side causes like 40% change in organizational effectiveness, and that's on a data set of 251. Of course, some of the hypotheses are not proven right in this model, and I think that's because of the size of the data, because it's not truly representative. But in general, 40% of organizational effectiveness could co-vary with the variance of these independent variables or variables on the left side of the diagram. Results, as I said, 12, like 1, 2, 3, these hypotheses have been supported. The rest have not been statistically supported. When I say supported is, when we run the statistical model, it doesn't show statistical significance. But those are statistically significant so far. And this is the same thing on a tabular form. Recommendations for practice, I'm not going to read it all. If I may, I'll start from the bottom up. Put your human assets at the heart of the organization. That is basically how organizations win in the 21st century. Jack Welch said it right. He said it's all about people. It's never about assets. It's never about money. It's never about privileges or the legal status or how many business connections you have. It's all about people. It doesn't matter what you create. It's always managed by people. So these recommendations relate to the findings, each one of them. I will not, because I'm running short on time, I will let you go through them later on, and if you have questions later on these specific ones, then we can discuss offline. Limitations, I have referred to that. The data size is okay, but it's not really sufficient to run. It's not enough to say establish causality between the two. But it's there's positive regression, there's positive correlation, and when we run the model, it shows some preliminary results. But the more the data, the more representation you have from the total population you'd like to study. One of the techniques I'd like to use next time is to hand out printouts to respondents, because many people are afraid of all the these scams. The links that come on your email and they wipe out your data or put a virus somewhere. Of course, there's much more to be done on this aspect. This is only a very, very small contribution, because I have not taken into consideration other variables which are very important. One that is round the corner is artificial intelligence. We don't know how the business realities will be with the onset of artificial intelligence. It is a major concern in the world right now. So that if these constructs have to be built in as independent variables later on for other research by other people. So this is a very small contribution that I'm making here. And thank you very much. And I'm 12 minutes and 44 seconds. So now we have 8 minutes for questions and answers.
One question in regards to the leadership and its relation with employee engagement. I totally understand that the leadership comes from top management that usually they set as an example to lead and practice the main principles the companies or let's say any business are built on. For example, code of conduct of the company, the ethics, work ethics, and etc. So how can the leadership is taken by the employee? Is it like the employee, you mean the top executive level also, or only the employees in a certain level?
Well, it's not a very good model, but we'd say it's the normal jargon we use on a daily basis. By employees, we mean everyone that reports to the CEO, say.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
What about CEO himself?
CEO himself has to be a leader, and part of being a leader is to allow everybody else to be a leader. So I don't know. I'm not sure I understood your question correctly, but part of being a leader is to build the grounds for everybody else to be a leader one day.
Yeah.
So it's to be supportive. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we tend to evaluate or value organizations generally by checking on what they do right, what they are doing right, and if they are doing right things. And of course, we do that by certain procedures of evaluation, evaluating the actions of the organization and checking on the outcomes of the organizations on the stakeholders. So I would say the performance and effectiveness of any organizations there must be some differentiation between these two processes. In your view, how you will differentiate between the effectiveness and the performance of any organization?
Oh, that's a very good question, actually, because I was and I'm still a bit lost in the terminology. The academia is very rich in terminology, and sometimes things are used interchangeably. What I know is that initially it started with more tangible metrics for measuring output. All right. One of them was productivity, and productivity was simply how much work was done in a per unit of time. All right, but that's, you can conclude that. And that's why language is beautiful. You can conclude that because if you track it down, if you trace it down, productivity has to do with product or production. So it's more material. Then came in the term performance. Performance is an all-inclusive terminology. Performance measures not only how effective you are in getting your goals, like you say, okay, I want to produce 5,000 units by the end of the year, whatever your line of business is. Then performance would measure that you say you have made 5,000 units, but have you utilized all of your resources to achieve those goals? Number one. And then, what is your quality assurance plans for next year? How consistent is your production? More recently, there's also environmental impact. The carbon print that you put into the environment. These are all becoming parts of the metrics that measure performance versus productivity. So I think the terminology is progressing as we understand more about business realities of the 21st century. And of course, it's more competitive, so you have to take much more elements into account to make sure that you stay competitive. Did I answer your question?
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. Well, many thanks for your presentation. Since in the questionnaire, employees are responding to a couple of sensitive or number of sensitive questions, how we can assume that he or she are selecting the right answer. This is the first part of the question, and the second part is, what if they're afraid of the consequences by the management?
That's a very good question, actually, very practical one. On a very practical basis, I think the toughest part is how to get representative data. How do you make sure that doesn't happen? I think the short answer is you don't. There's always bias. There's bias, like somebody is not really into what you're doing. So what they do is this median bias that you have 7 on the Likert scale. I like it, I don't like it, I'm neutral, the Likert scale. So everyone goes in the middle, Statistically speaking, if you say neutral about everything as if you haven't said anything, because it doesn't change the simulation in any direction, mathematically thinking about statistics. So that's one problem. The other problem is, as you said, if they are really, if they open their heart, because I do agree with you, there are some sensitive questions in the questionnaire. If they really tell you what they feel about the organization, will that have consequences? Will it backlash on their head? If their managers know what they have been talking about, how do you can mitigate that, but you cannot stop it from happening. You can mitigate it by, number one, on the questionnaire. I have an NDA with everyone that responds to the question. Nobody can have access to this information except myself. And I have passed the ethics committee. So my process is approved by Hult's ethics committee. And I consider myself a professional and an ethical person in the first place. So I'm not going to share that data with anyone. That's one guarantee that I gave to the respondent. Plus some other techniques that you make sure that it doesn't happen while that person is sitting on a desk in the company. Many other techniques, but can we say that there's zero effect? No. But we can minimize it. There's always bias, and part of the data cleaning is actually to minimize that bias. But it will never be zero. Yeah.
Thank you.
One more question. We're 20 minutes exactly. Yes, sir.
Yes, thanks very much, and really informative presentation. Wow, I have a PhD in the field of business. Good job for you. Well, I have a question about data. I have two questions actually. Are there concerns regarding the data that you have collected? And what was the sample, the real sample? Who responded to the questionnaire that you had? That's it.
So thank you very much for the question, sir. It's the total population is 1,700 and some change companies. I haven't done a total census of how many employees actually work in that sector. One thing that we are very poor in the Kurdistan region of Iraq is data, as you may know. So what is exactly the population? I have no idea. I have an idea, but I can't be, really, I can't share it with professional certainty. This data size is 251 data points. And I am planning to augment it at least by doubling that number. So I'll be okay with about 500. And concerns about the data, of course, there are many concerns about the data. That's why, the initial responses were much more than 251. But we had to remove a lot of outliers, a lot of those neutral, and some people just didn't complete. Some people filled in 20 questions and forgot about the rest, because it's not easy too. This takes like 50 questions for measuring all 7 constructs. Sorry? Yes, all Likert, yes. And who are they? Most of them are from the telecom sector. I don't have the exact numbers, but initially it was all from the telecom sector. But then as we started to expand to other business sectors, some others are from logistics, from education, from exactly. It's all random selection. Yes.
Dividing, for example, you have one dimension is leadership. So
yes,
leadership is you ask the leaders, the managers.
It's we use people to tell us what's going on as far as leadership style is concerned. So it's the same people that are from the employee level all the way up. But I do capture the level of seniority per each company, because that will help you understand what's going on. You have to, sometimes you have to do the analysis at and you have to cap it at a certain level. You also have to cap it at, all these binary variables that you have in your data. It gives you the context, because sometimes even male, female responses give you different results. I am running 3 minutes over time. We can continue this over dinner. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.